Hey guys, Mike here. So we got our 6th green day in a row, and so this is what we've been talking about for a long time, where you get these multi-day rallies up, and again, everything's a relief rally until it's not, right? And so we did hit a couple of major things today on the chart. Finally, we'll go in there and talk about that. Also, why we can continue to move up, but crazy amount of data tomorrow, and there's one thing in particular. There's a bunch of important stuff, but one thing in particular, which I'm going to talk about in this video, because you're going to see a number tomorrow which might shock you, and the market go, oh, and everybody's like, oh my god, this is terrible. But you got to know, you got to pull the curtain back and say, what is behind 2 plus 2, right? If it equals 4, why does it equal 4? Right? Pull it back and I'll show it to you, and I'll let you hear, like, there's things going on that, we don't see it, right? Unless you're in the business, like, we just don't see these things. We're not going to feel them for like at least probably 8 to 12 weeks maybe. So, could be a couple 1 to 2 months maybe. And so, but it's important to understand it so you don't get surprised when it happens, and why you see these narratives being painted about where, the majority think the market's going to go and why this will happen in this time frame and all that fun stuff. And then we're going to do some economic news as well. Plus, the thing about tomorrow is I don't know how tomorrow's going to open up, so we'll go into this, is what SMCI did after the bell here, which we'll talk about, which is dragging down the semiconductors in after hours. So we'll have to see how that's going to affect tomorrow as well. But I want to start off with something funny. I thought, it was funny. It ended up being funny. It wasn't funny at first, but it was Amazon, right? They got hit hard this morning, but there was a report out saying, wait, let me just let you hear what they said at the White House this morning. This is like before the market even opened.
So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this, since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise, because as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon.
And of course, don't worry, the president literally called Jeff Bezos and talked to him about this. And immediately, this is what happened.
An Amazon spokesperson now responding to CNBC saying, quote, the team that runs our ultra low cost Amazon Haul store has considered listing import charges on certain products. This was never a consideration for the main Amazon site, and nothing has been implemented on any Amazon properties.
So, of course, that's a big deal because, remember, half the country, they get their news from one source or don't get news at all. They have no clue what's going on in the world, unlike you and me. They don't pay attention to it. Some of them, like my brother, don't want to because he knows good news don't sell, so it's going to be nothing but negative anyway. And I don't blame him, right? So, but the last thing they want is the majority of the country to look on a website and go, what is that tariff thing? You mean the country that, we're putting the tariffs on, but you mean the other country don't pay for those tariffs? Like, no, we pay for the tariff. It's like a tax, right? And so that's why you hear the Treasury Secretary, when he's selling the tax bill now, saying, this was going to kind of offset that tax bill, those tax decreases for people making like $150,000 or less. It's going to offset that extra they're paying for those goods, right? And so that's why they're kind of talking about it that way. So yeah, they do not want it on a website. And Jeff Bezos is like, don't worry, I got you. Now, important stuff, what's happening? Okay, remember, market's moving up. And we've seen this before. What's happening to data? Because you got to know it. It's terrible. It's absolutely horrific. There's nothing good about it at all. Shouldn't be a surprise, right? But this is the kind of stuff the market does, right? So these are all the manufacturing reports from Philly, Richmond, Kansas City, Dallas, the Empire. All of them are going down. All of them are in contraction. You shouldn't be surprised. We've been talking about it. And, of course, especially now, what you're seeing happening in the economy and stuff. And then, of course, you go over to Joel's jobs openings. These are coming down finally. And, again, if you look, I always say look to the left. What was happening before? So from 2018-19, we're actually just finally reaching that level. okay, of like normalcy to these job openings. You see how they got? And so, again, people are watching for any kind of weakness in the job market and everything like that. It's like you saw, for example, UPS laying off 20,000 workers. That's their plan. So that's good paying jobs. And so that's not a good thing for them. Then you go over to consumer confidence and be very careful with confidence reports because maybe this one's better than others, but most of them are hot garbage because it's so skewed politically. And that's just the truth. We've proven that. And again, do you expect consumer confidence to be up right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, and if that just continues to move over into the economy, it's not a good thing. But according to a Fed study and Visa and I forgot if it's MGM Resorts, it's the opposite. Like you're seeing consumer confidence go down, but even the Fed said, well, it was way down in December that people still spending. Visa just came out earnings right now. Said, no, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing that softness. MGM, I believe it is, just came out and said, guess what? People still gambling. Okay. And I'll be in the airports in about probably 4 more weeks, I think it is. And so I'll get to see where we're at 4 weeks from now in the airport because I'll be going through the busiest airport in the world. I'll be going to a bunch of airports. So, we'll get to see that, but that's 4 weeks from now. And so, again, I ask you guys what you're doing, and most of you just normal spending. My family and I, all our neighbors, like normal life, right? Nothing, you wouldn't notice anything's really going on. Again, we do live on the coast, but we're not up here working these ports or anything else, which we're about to talk about. We don't work in the travel industry or anything like that. So now we get to talk about those two important industries. What's happening behind the scenes with the travel industry? And I actually learned a fact today I did not know. Maybe you don't know it either because it really was stunning to me. And then also what is going on at the ports and what are they seeing there. So here's what's going on with the travel industry right now, as you can guess.
Yeah, so if you look at Canadian drive traffic, it was down nearly 30% in March. Air travel, not as bad. Combined, it was down about 15%. So it's really the day trips from Canada that have taken the biggest hit. But that visitation is also taking hit. I think the question is, what's the plan going forward? We need these travelers here, obviously, from a job standpoint, a spending standpoint. When these travelers come, they do nothing more than come, spend their money, and go home and tell their friends and family to do the same thing. It's free money. It's about $200 billion that these international travelers spend. That's bigger than all of our agricultural exports combined.
And here's an interesting stat. For every 1% drop in foreign visitor spending, that is $1.8 billion lost in export revenue annually. But isn't that staggering? Like I would never have guessed that we make so much money off tourism that is greater than all of our agricultural exports combined. Like that's stunning to me. It's like, wow, interesting. So not a good one there. If you're in the travel industry, let me know what you're seeing, of course. And it affects really, it's not, I'm going to get to see in 4 weeks because we're going on vacation. If it's going to affect the area I'm going, that'll be interesting. Let me know if you've been on vacations recently, if you've noticed a difference or going on one. Now, the next one has to do with imports. This is important because we're getting GDP tomorrow, okay? So pay close attention to this. We're going to talk about it.
A great majority of that volume was advancing inventory, and that started last summertime. Even during the campaign trail, when folks started talking about tariffs and trade policies, some larger retailers across a variety of sectors and manufacturing folks who were bringing in parts and components started to advance that inventory. So we had about 9 months of a run up here. And then this last burst in March really took us to the end of what we call that inventory look. And now precipitous drop overall, and realistically what we're going to see next is that retailers have about 5 to 7 weeks of full inventories left, and then the choices will lessen.
And so again, here's the latest one that came out, I believe today. So now it's going to be without the gold, negative 1.45, somewhere in there. With gold, obviously way worse than that. But you always have to do what? You have to scroll down and look at what this is entailing. And what this is talking about, if you look, net exports, we talked about this before, and see what it is. There's January, and this when we hit February, right? That's April. So what do you see? Big difference in net exports. And so we know he just said what? They've been front loading this. We knew they were front loading it. But the other thing I don't know is the import part of it. Because we know China's canceled soybeans. They just canceled the pork. I told you yesterday. They've been canceling all kinds of stuff. I don't know if any other countries have been canceling or not. Okay. And the crazy part is, I think it would be even more out of whack. Like I told you, a lot of these ships are coming in, but I don't know if those ships coming in when they're trying to dry dock this or put it in cold storage or whatever they're doing. I don't know if that counts as a successful import came in, or they actually wait for it to come off the dock and actually start heading to its destination. That I don't know. Let me know if you know in the comments. And so again, this number's going to come out. It's probably going to be bad if they're right. They've never predicted a negative one and not been correct on that. But it's something that's not unlike the pandemic. Like, it can be corrected, right? If things get turned around, blah, blah, blah. But if this thing drags out, then obviously that is not going to be the case. And this is the thing you're not going to see for at least a couple more months, right? That's what he was trying to say. And so we won't even see it in the earnings or anywhere else for at least, like, I mean, we got to go through all the way, because we're in April now. So we still got May and June to go for the second quarter before we even hear about it. And so just don't be surprised. And that's why you're seeing the market, it may be going up, but you're still seeing that defensive type posturing right now happening as it goes up. Now, another thing that's going to happen tomorrow, we don't know how semiconductors are going to open up tomorrow. I'm going to talk about this first because SMCI took a dump because they decided to come out. They don't report till next week, but if you're going to get bad news out there, why not go ahead and get bad news out there, right? And so what they did was they end up cutting their net sales forecast, and this may not seem like a lot, but it's a lot. They expect revenue 4.5 to 4.6 for Q3, down from earlier forecast of 5 to 6 billion, and then the EPS got just halved, almost 50%. You see that at the bottom right there? Here's a bigger version of it. And of course, a lot of this they believe has to do with China obviously canceling orders, things of that nature. So we'll see how that plays out. But of course, in after hours, it's dragging down NVIDIA and a few others. So we'll see if they're going to recover or not, because we've seen that in SMCI before, where it's had these huge drop downs and people bought it up and all that fun stuff. And we move over to the S&P. You can see on the chart here, we ended up touching or challenging the all-time high anchor VWAP, as well as the 300 SMA, which I'll pull up in just a minute. But you can see on the 4 hour, you still have room for that gap up, right? So if this thing wants to gap up tomorrow for whatever reason, it has room to run, which would put us near that golden pocket area, put us past that 300 SMA, which you can see right there I just brought up. And so that all-time high anchor VWAP and the 300 SMA are aligned perfectly together. So we did not make it through that today. We'll see if we're going to end up getting a pullback tomorrow. Again, you don't know how these semis are going to open up. That's 10 to 12% of the S&P. And remember, Jim Cameron was telling members, like, he called this rally. He just called it too early, but he's projecting to go anywhere from 5,700 to 6,000 on the ES. This is SPX, but still, I mean, that's another 5-6% up. So that would be an enormous move. Again, if we make it through this level, you got the 50 next, then we most likely go into positive gamma. Okay. And so things will be a little bit different at that point in time, but you can definitely have a lot more sustained rallies when you're sitting there in positive gamma. So again, we'll see what's going to happen right here. Tesla just been stair-stepping up, as you can see, kind of accumulating right here in this area. Still can't get above that 0.5 fib, that 293 area right there. If it does break above that, because remember the 200 moving average is right there, I definitely believe, obviously, it's going to 302 probably pretty quickly. I think it'll start to squeeze again because, as I've showed you, I mean, it usually bottoms out in this area right here. It's holding up. Again, the terrible earnings didn't bring it down, right? It rallied from there. And so there's no real catalyst. It just tends to bottom, and all of a sudden you start getting squeezed because right now every pullback is getting bought up, okay? And so something else maybe happens or not. And don't forget, with the administration, they already said they're going to come up with a trade announcement probably in the next few days. I don't know if it's going to be India, Korea, whoever, but, you got to think it's probably not a negative thing. So we'll see if they end up coming up with that. Hims right here, you can see, again, a lot of these idiot gurus, I like to call them, say, oh, told you guys it was going to break out, told you guys. And it's like, dude, I told you it's going to break out, but nobody predicted they're going to do a partnership and go up 40% in one day. Okay, I mean, I'm glad to see it. Happy for it, riding it up. Went up 40% pre-market, closed about 23% up, down that shade area, but nobody could predict that, right? So again, a lot of these stocks setting up with this rounding bottom, breaking a trend line. That's just what we're seeing right now. So, if you're riding it up, glad to see that. Congratulations to you. Did close above the 50s. We'll see if this maintains or not. I mean, 40% is a big freaking move up just on a partnership, right? So, but again, it was sitting there just being held back by that trend line, okay? So that's why you get the explosive move up. Plus, it's a low float, high shorted stock, right? And so shorts, I assume, covered for sure. And they got smoked this morning. So again, we'll see where this one's going to bottom up. We'll see if it's going to fill in more of that gap or not. SOFI, which we had talked about, good earnings came out. Boom. Big move for earnings on them today. So this one continues to move higher after breaking out. And again, you can put this, I mean, that's considered a rounding bottom too. I mean, it looks like all the rest of them, right? totally just all the rest of these high beta stocks and stuff, you know, or tech stocks, whatever you want to talk to them about, are coming up. And this is like 6 days in a row, just like the S&P is green. So, you know, it did close right at its 100 moving average, hit that golden pocket area, up in that shade area, which we'd already talked about. That's where it was going to go when it broke out. So we're there now. Personally, I'm one of those guys, I like to move up with structure. So I'd love to see this come back down, pull some liquidity from down beneath right here, and then start to move back up instead of just, you know, because this is not one of these like Palantir type stocks. This usually doesn't move like this. As you can look at the chart and just kind of see that, right? You end up getting some kind of pullbacks, but to have no red days and 6 days, like it is definitely overdue. And I think, I'm trying to think, I've covered so many of these stocks, but I swear this thing usually does, if it pops on earnings, it usually gives some of that back. So if it was going to happen, I would definitely, let me get back on record trading hours, pick this area right here out, which and let it test that 50 moving average again with a fair value gap right here to come back in, as well as a support area between like 1277, 1350, somewhere in there. I think it would be healthy. And then just start to move back up from there if that's the case. That's what I would like to see. Not saying it's going to happen, but a lot more structure there. Now you look at earnings tomorrow. Again, Caterpillar will be a good one to listen to. ADP is going to be another one. And then the big boys, Microsoft, Meta, and then of course you have Robinhood, Qualcomm as well. And then it comes to the data. Oh boy, it is loaded, as you can see right here. Before the opening bell, non-farm employment change, ADP that is, advanced GDP quarter over quarter, employment cost index quarter over quarter, advanced GDP, price index, Chicago PMI, after the bell, core PC price index month over month, pending home sales month over month, personal income month over month, personal spending month over month, and crude oil inventories. So buckle up, because it's going to be extremely volatile tomorrow. No doubt about that. The data is probably going to come in all over the freaking place. It's just about how the market wants to take it and stuff. And after 6 green days in a row, I mean, we'll see if they're going to push. But you would think, you know, especially if semis open up red, you get a pull down and just watch to see if we get another bounce up, because every single time it pulls back, we've got the bounce. Okay, and so we'll see what happens. Let me know your prediction at the bottom and stuff. And the question is, people say, "What's baked in?" I'm like, well, it's been 6 green days in a row. I don't think too much is baked into the negative side, but again, we'll see. Especially setting up against where it's sitting right now, where it ended. It's always funny how we end up setting up against resistors or something before this happens, and then SMCI comes out and pre-reports like that. I mean, isn't that crazy how that always tends to pan out? But anyway, hope you guys got some out of it. Please hit that like, subscribe button if you did. Think about sharing the video. Think about signing up for the membership. Less than a McDonald's combo, and that's everything you get with it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.